$40 million in total and $100,000 per year. That's the amount of money that this stock will make me. I spent the last 12 years investing and learning more and more every day. And doing that, I researched hundreds of companies and investors to understand how to make the most possible money, while still being safe and not risking everything. And finally, after all of this time, I've understood which is the stock for me. The stock that will make me millions, and that it could do the same for you. Hi all, I'm Nico. I am an investor since more than 10 years, and yes, I can now say that there is one stock which is pure gold. Because I've been spending the last years researching a lot, I've been analyzing companies. I went through thousands of SEC filings, because I really wanted to go in depth in the numbers of every company to really understand them. And so I also studied the management, the strategy, the market and the industry in which these companies were. And while I was doing this analysis, I was also studying the greatest investors ever. I was studying why they would do one investment rather than another one. And so also how they could constantly beat the market. And the investor that impressed me the most is clearly Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time. And the thing that really shocked me about him is that he does not diversify. Because if you look at his portfolio now, Apple represents 49% of his portfolio, which basically means that all of his investments are based on Apple. And this made me think a lot, because I started thinking, is it really necessary to diversify, to invest in many stocks? Would it be good to have a lower number of stocks and having maybe one which drives the performance of your portfolio? And actually, studying Buffett, what you see is that he also says that if you know what you're doing, if you find one stock, one company which is better than the others, just invest in this one. And that's what he did with Apple. And so that's why I started thinking, which is the stock that I should have, that should drive my portfolio? And to find out which company it is, I studied the different industries in the world and their trends. And my conclusion is that the information technology industry is the one in which I should focus on. And this for different reasons, because firstly, it is the biggest industry since the last 20 years that has driven the global market. But also because over the next 20 years, it's rather safe to say that with artificial intelligence, metaverse, blockchain, this industry will continue to grow a lot. And to add to that, it's also an industry which I'm close to, so that I really understand and know. And this is always super important when you are investing, because you must know in what you're investing. And so starting from this industry, I started researching the different companies, and doing that, I found the company. I found my holy grail. And this company is Microsoft. And it might seem like an easy choice, something obvious, but hear me through, because there's actually a lot you must know if you also want to invest in this company, because it is really important that you understand why. And so firstly, I want to start with the numbers, which yes, might be sometimes boring, but they're always the basis. They are the financial basis from which you can understand if a company is strong. And so let's start with the owner's earnings, which has been defined by Warren Buffett as the amount of money that the owner will bring back home at the end of the year. And over the last 10 years, it has grown at a rate of 20%, which is just amazing, because imagine if you had a salary increase of 20% every year. It's a huge amount of money. And so this is a first signal that the company is growing and that financially it's doing very well. Moreover, the standard deviation of the owner's earnings is rather low compared to the other companies in the industry. And this is a good signal that the growth is stable. But then if we also look at the price earnings, we see that the price earning of 36 is rather good for the industry, as well as the return on assets of 20%. It's something really interesting. But it's also really interesting to go more in depth in these numbers, analyzing what the different divisions of Microsoft are and how they are growing. Because we can see that services like cloud and Azure are growing at a rate of about 20%. LinkedIn has been growing at a rate of 10%, and the Office Suite at 10%. And even Windows has increased its revenue by 5% over the last year. And so we can see that the main divisions of Microsoft are growing. Actually, if I calculate the intrinsic value of the company as Warren Buffett would, I see that the stock price is well underpriced, because its intrinsic value is much higher than the market value. And this is a great signal that shows that the stock price will eventually grow over the time. But let's now talk about the future of this company, because we're talking about the next 20 years. And so we want the company to continue to develop, to grow. And I want to start with the acquisitions that Microsoft has made over the last years, because it is a super important point. And so let's start in the field of artificial intelligence, because actually Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI, which is the developer of ChatGPT. And this already shows the potential of Microsoft in the artificial intelligence field. And that's why also you can see that most of their products like Edge, Office, Windows are already integrated with ChatGPT. And even though Microsoft doesn't control OpenAI, Sam Altman, the former CEO of OpenAI, and Greg Brockman, the former president, are now employed by Microsoft. And this makes it possible to have an AI division in Microsoft that is developing internally. And I think it could be worse than having the two people that brought to life the best artificial intelligence tool that we have nowadays. But to that we also have to add the acquisition of Nuance, which is a big company which has been working on AI software since several years. And so there's a lot of expertise on that too coming from here. And so Microsoft really is in a strong position to lead the whole artificial intelligence industry, which, as we can all imagine, will grow extremely over the next years. But the acquisitions of Microsoft don't stop here, because you might have heard also that Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, one of the biggest video game producers of the world, which has been producing Call of Duty and World of Warcraft, for example. And so yes, Activision is a great company from the gaming industry, but why is this acquisition so important? Well, the answer is metaverse. Because games are the first and easiest applicable field for metaverse. And as the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says, gaming is the most dynamic and exciting category in entertainment across all platforms today, and will play a key role in the development of metaverse platforms. Because let's think about World of Warcraft, for example. The world in itself is already existing. So once the technology will be ready, you will already have a full world with a lot of players and so clients. And that's why also Microsoft has not only bought Activision, but also many other small gaming companies like ZeniMax Media. And so Microsoft not only have a very strong position in the artificial intelligence industry, but also a very strong one on the metaverse. And those two are probably the technologies that will conquer the world over the next years and decades. And through all of these acquisitions, Microsoft is actually taking all the resources, all the competences in this world for itself, so that they will be able to develop amazing products. But while doing that, Microsoft is also making acquisitions to improve their historical business, so the professional side of Microsoft. And they did that, for example, with the acquisition of LinkedIn. And so overall, the strategy of Microsoft is very clear. Continue to develop their business, looking at the future, but also developing their own roots. And that's what has made possible over the last years to greatly increase their revenues. But let's now talk about the management, because the management is the real reason why all of this is happening. And it is important to talk about one specific figure, which is the CEO, Satya Nadella, who became CEO of Microsoft in 2014. And over the last 10 years, he has demonstrated to be one of the best CEOs in the whole world. And this because he has revolutionized the whole company, he has revolutionized Microsoft, and he gave it the direction that it has now. And he did that by changing the culture of the company. Because what he actually did to make it more innovative was to bring back the spirit of a startup. And he also did that with all of the acquisitions we were talking about before. Because like this, he brought new blood in the company. He brought people from startups, and this mental change actually changed everything. And yes, now, even if people don't think so, Microsoft is one of the most innovative companies in the world. And so Microsoft is actually fully leveraging on its own core business while also developing its own future. And it is doing that with all of these acquisitions and this cultural change. And if we put that together with the actual strong numbers, we can definitely say that the growth of Microsoft will not stop and will continue even more over the next 20, 30 and 40 years. And so let's now see what it actually means in terms of money, all of what I'm talking about. And I want to invest in it a part of my portfolio, which is actually of $250,000. And so I'll make a first estimation that thanks to all the investments, all the acquisitions in the new technologies that they are developing, and knowing that both AI and the metaverse industry are expected to grow immensely over the next years. As an example, AI, there are estimations of more than 40% per year. Let's say that Microsoft keeps the same growth level as it has had over the last 20 years, which is a growth of 21.66%, which is already amazing, okay? So I invest these $250,000, and it means that in 20 years, this money will have turned into $14.1 million. So yes, I would definitely make millions with this stock in the next 20 years. And to that, you actually have to add the fact that there is a dividend, and it would represent $105,000 per year, which is just amazing. Those numbers are incredible. And so let's say, as an example, that you are investing $10,000. This means that they would become $565,000. And I mean, that's more than 50 times the money you put in. But that's not all, because there is also the dividend, which will be of more than $4,000. And this is almost half of your investment, of your initial investment. But I want to make it even better. Imagine that every year you invest $2,000 more. This means that at the end of the 20 years, you will have more than $1 million and $8,000 of dividend. And so now I want you to imagine how it would be to invest in Microsoft and retire with all of this money and dividends. Wouldn't be good? But yes, for sure, the growth rate might be lower. It's extremely difficult to correctly estimate the growth of a company. We don't know what will happen in the future. So let's make a more conservative estimation, okay? So Microsoft has regularly beaten the Standard & Poor's 500 results. And with all that Microsoft is doing, it's rather safe to assume that it's gonna do better than the Standard & Poor's 500. And so instead of saying 21.66, let's say that the growth of Microsoft is of about 14% per year. And so even if the growth rate is 8% lower, after 20 years you'll still have more than $350,000 and a dividend of almost $3,000, which, let's be honest, from an investment of $10,000, that's just incredible. It's amazing. And again, this is, in my opinion, the conservative case for the growth of Microsoft. And I personally expect much more than that. But let's also talk about the risks, because when you're investing, nothing is granted. For sure, there are always risks. And maybe all the analysis I made is wrong and next year Microsoft fails. I don't think so. I think that the analysis I made is rather solid. The numbers are there, the strategy is there, and the acquisitions are also there. And all of these aspects altogether are definitely important for the growth and the future of Microsoft. And with this management that they have now, I can really say that the company is in really good hands that will bring it to a bright future. And all of this gives me a lot of confidence to invest in it. But clearly, if you're not aligned with me, write it down in the comments. I really want to hear about your analysis. And so here is the analysis of my favorite stock, Microsoft. And if you want to learn more about how to do such an analysis, you can watch this video. But you can also learn more about investing by watching this other video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.